Welcome to Two Deep, Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast. I'm your host, Pete B, and I don't have my normal co-host, Sam, here with me, but I do have a very special guest, Hokies former player and analyst, Jeron Gouveia-Winslow. Coach, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
No problem. And I guess I should start with just a happy Father's Day. Yesterday was Father's Day, and you've got a few kiddos at home, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yep, three daughters. They're young. I have my hands full, but we had a good day at the pool.
And you even had to work a little bit on Father's Day.
Yeah, we finished up a busy weekend. June is pretty hectic for us, but it's a lot of fun. We got camps, we got OVs, visits. So you got your hosted families. So we wrapped up one yesterday, and that one went really well. So it was a good day.
Nice. Yeah, life of a coach. There is no holidays, so to speak. We got a chance to chat a little bit at the spring game festivities. I ran into you and I talked to you. You'd be a perfect guest to come on this show and talk a little ball. And so I'm excited to do this. And first, I see on the screen you've got Gouv. Like, is that what the coach call you? Like the kids call you Coach Gouv, or what do they call you?
Yep, everybody calls me Gouv.
Okay.
I mean, for my playing days, it's been a long nickname. Obviously, growing up and playing here, I was like, hey, some Coach Beamer, some of them call me G Dub. Coach Foster, he still calls me G Dub. But Coach Gouv is what I'm known around here. Yep.
In this episode, we're just going to get into your playing career, talk a little bit about the linebackers and their relationships with the safeties and how that goes into our run defense. But before that, I just want to let the people know Coach Gouv is entering his third season with the Hokies. He was in player personnel prior to 2022, but he's been back at Virginia Tech since 2020. And the analyst position is a growing one among college football for at least the last decade now. And I think when a lot of people think of analysts, they think of Alabama and how Coach Saban would bring in those former famous coaches to be an analyst and give them that advantage. And we've got 6 of you guys on staff right now. Our other analysts include Brian Christ, Xavier Devey, Jeff Carpenter, Brent Davis, and Brandon McCombs. So let's start with the basics. What are your responsibilities as an analyst, and what's the day-to-day like for one of you guys? I'm sure you have your own areas of expertise.
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically, it's a glorified graduate assistant type role where, we do have the GAs under us. We're under our position coaches, under the coordinator. But everything that the coordinator needs, everything my position coach needs, you're breaking down film, you're making sure scouting reports are prepared. Obviously, recruiting is a beast; it never stops. That's a big part of it too, right? But what differs from us than the position coach is one, when they go on the road recruiting, they're in the high schools, they're in their homes. Analysts, we don't go on the road; we're stay here. So when they're off and the position coaches are gone. We can actually be here for the boys, help them, with film study, always just helping them get better in the classroom, or just whatever they need. But, breaking down the X's and O's, getting reports done when it's game week, when it's like in season, just making sure practice plans it's like quality control. You want to make sure everything's ironed out, ready to go for practice, so you can be efficient with your time on the field, off the field. But anything the coordinator needs, position coach needs, we're going to get it done.
And you're involved in game planning, strategy, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a DB and I, we have our offices, but for the most part, we're always in the D staff room. We need to be readily available for Coach Marr, but when we're going over game plans, I'm working with Coach Prelo, Coach Cheetah, Derek Jones. We do have a new GA, Brandon, Coach Devalt Smith. We're going to talk about, hey, this is what they're doing conceptually, pass game wise. All right, this is what we need to do coverage wise, and just make sure that game plan sound. And then obviously Coach Marr, the linebackers, they're going to handle the run game, and then it all just kind of comes together when we're in the room, chopping it up and breaking it down.
Nice. So I wasn't sure if you guys, how involved an analyst would be in recruiting. And I know there's a lot of rules when it comes to like on-field coaching, off-field coaching, recruiting, but you are heavily involved in recruiting as an analyst.
I mean, the recruiting world is all hands on deck. We're going to do as much as we can from that front. But talking to players, obviously get them on the phone, building relationships, helping when Pilo's on the road. I specifically work under him with the safeties and the defensive backs. But when he's on the road, I got to make sure, hey, he's going to go into a school and be like, oh, yeah, hey, they got this kid. Hey, yeah, okay, coach told me about this kid. Watch this film real quick, because I'm here and, I can get that done while he's driving around. So just kind of being an extension for him, any defensive back, building relationships with them. You can never have enough of us, talking to these kids, the families, being a resource for them, us being former players, specifically Xavier DB and myself. Those families do appreciate when we are able to share our experience when we're talking to them in the recruiting aspect. What will it be like being a Hokie here? What it would be like running out of that tunnel to our fans and our fan base. What's life like as a student athlete on campus here? So, it feels great being able to share those experiences and tell folks like, hey, it's an extraordinary experience. But on the recruiting front, we'll do whatever we can, all the time.
And it's been busy lately, right? Like we're in June. This is official visit season. The last couple weekends, I think 2 weekends ago, the 8th, like, didn't you guys have over 100 guys there? How's it been going? How's the recruiting season been going?
This weekend, I think we had over 800, almost 900 kids on campus this weekend for the 7-on-7 camp.
Okay.
So a bunch of teams came. 7-on-7 camp was awesome. Got to evaluate a lot of talent, meet a lot of players, coaches. We had the big man challenge, so big boys were here, which was awesome. So this weekend was super busy. Had an official visit weekend with a family. Shout out to Stonebridge. He's from my alma mater in Acton, Virginia. Stonebridge. Got to host them. That went really well. So I think Friday night, I got like 2.5 hours of sleep. It was crazy. And then Saturday was like full go all day. And so I'm feeling it now, but it's all worth it, man. It's a lot of fun. It's busy. And I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel when June 24th comes around. It's about 4 weeks of quality time with my family. So, looking forward to that, but we got to finish strong here.
Yeah, with how busy you've been and, all the stuff going on campus, I do appreciate you squeezing in this interview to give the fans a little bit of an insight into how it is. Are you feeling positive about the 2025 recruiting class?
Oh, man. I mean, we're off to a great start. Some of the guys that already verbally committed, I mean, they're dudes, like dudes. And obviously, making a huge emphasis and trying to keep our boys home in the state of Virginia. But with how we finished off last year, there's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of excitement in the
no doubt.
Players that the highly ranked players. They're seeing the potential of what we're building right now, and they're jumping on board. So I'm really excited for the 25 class. It's already shaping out to be elite, and it's only gonna get better. We got a big weekend this weekend. We got like over a dozen, maybe 15 plus families and some dudes coming on campus. So could be buzzing some more after this weekend.
Love to hear it. Now, I'm not going to try to embarrass you here, but I want to go back to your playing career just briefly before we get to the current team. You started at Whip from 2010 to 2012, and there might have been an injury in there during your redshirt junior season, but you made a lot of plays in your career, 40 games, 80 total tackles, forced fumbles, interceptions, and you captained the defense, I think, in 2012 and the special teams. So you a very accomplished player in your own right. But let's go back to the summer before 2010. It's your turn to be the starter at Whip. You had to follow Cody Grimm, a great player, one of the best whips, true whips to ever play for Virginia Tech. Were you feeling a lot of pressure heading into that redshirt sophomore season, especially with the huge matchup against Boise State at FedEx to open week 1?
Oh, man, getting chills thinking about that. No, I mean, that summer, definitely appreciate, like, when I came in here as a freshman, I had upperclassmen. I had guys that really took me under their wing. Cody Grimm is definitely one of those dudes. Looked up to him, learned a lot of ball from him. Our dads played together in the league for Washington, so we go way back. But
couple Super Bowls.
Yeah. But learning from him, Davon Morgan comes to mind of another. So the rover and whip position, we shared the same room, right? But I learned a lot from Davon. But it was just just learning from the older guys. I mean, that's what it's all about. And so when it was my turn, it was my time to step up. I do remember there was a different focus that summer leading in, knowing that, hey, I had a chance to, obviously you got to compete for the job, but that my time was up. And so leading up to that game, it was really, that's back home. I know it was at FedEx Field, but, Northern Virginia, where I'm from. So I had a bunch of folks, family, going to that game. I was ready to roll. But, no, I mean, good memories.
We all know how that season started. It was the tough, two painful losses. And again, not to bring up old wounds or anything like that, but it was a minor setback for a major comeback, as it was said, correct? And the team goes on that 11-game run, wins the ACC. Your experience as a player, both good and bad, though, turned you into the coach you are today. So to me, your season in 2010 individually kind of mirrored that roller coaster that the team went through. Would you agree with that?
That was probably one of the best teams I'd ever been on. I know it did not start out hot. I mean, on my part as well, but I remember after going 0-2, kind of that. I mean, it was a tough game against JMU, short week.
Short week. You guys, when did you get back after that FedEx game? It must have been like 5 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Short week. I mean, I just remember, that next team meeting, Tyrod Taylor stepping up, Ryan Williams, some of the older guys stepping up, actually sending the coaches out. Hey, y'all got to roll. And I mean, the team, the locker room, obviously there was tension, because that's not how we wanted to start that season, and we knew we were better than that. But the older guys, the leaders, they took ownership, and I mean, we just got to work, man. Right. We did make some changes, but I mean, nothing changed as far as us putting in that work on the field, coming closer together than ever, and making that run. I mean, that was honestly, that was the best team I've probably ever been on. Won the ACC championship and capped that thing off. But that was challenging, and it also set up for hey, that's football. It's adversity. But it's not how you start; it's how you finish. Always trying to get better, and we finished strong.
Yeah, I would have to believe after those first 2 games, you and the rest of the defense are hearing it from the fans, the media, and social media wasn't what it is then, what it is now, which is probably for the best. But whatever it was, and I'm still mad at Kellen Moore myself, like for that game, for that last drive. He's now the OC of my Philadelphia Eagles, but you had to live it, and to go from that and the JMU game, and then all the way to the end, and you get the pick 6 in the Florida State ACC championship game. First TD of the game, and it just felt like it was on after that. I was at the game. It was incredible. And your year ends on the highest of highs for you individually, for the team, everything. One of the craziest and best teams I can remember in VT football history. And you talked a little bit about being 0-2. Like, that had to just be so difficult. Have you ever drawn on that turnaround in your coaching career?
Definitely. I try to tell guys all the time. I mean, no, I've come back to that year so many times, just talking about how, again, it isn't how you start. Like, obviously you don't want to start like that, but it's how you finish, always going in week in, week out, getting better. And then having that 1-0 mindset every week. Then the biggest game is the next one. And so, drawing back on that year, I do. I mean, I've told that story plenty of times in my coaching career, to my players, because, I've bounced around. I've been to some places where, they were kind of, we were there for a reason, like they were losing, and we had to now, change the culture, and turn the programs around. But that always comes to mind. And then finishing that season, obviously, the ACC championship game, man, that was something. That was something. But man, the team.
For you guys that don't remember, Bruce tips the ball, right, and then you snag it, and you run it into the end zone, and the place is really full. Like, these days, I feel like the ACC championship game doesn't always get the best crowd, but that Florida State Virginia Tech game in 2010, it was packed out.
It was lit. I mean, I just honestly, it's funny because you're on the field, it's loud, right? But in the heat of the battle, in the moment, it's like it almost was like kind of everything kind of starts, the sound goes away, and you're just kind of in your helmet playing. But that set it off. I remember, finally getting to the end zone, and we're celebrating with the guys, and look up in the corner. It's mostly FSU fans in the corner where it was. And, we weren't getting the best hand gestures there, but it was it was a lot of fun, and that set it off. And we kept the lead the whole game, and took it home.
All right, we need to talk about the current team real quick. The 2Deep Hokies Under the Influence podcast is brought to you by Roback. Make sure you use code 2DeepVT for 20% off your first order. I know Coach has more Virginia Tech themed polos than he knows what to do with, but you guys out there might need some fresh ones. So use code 2DeepVT for 20% off your Roback order. On the current team, we had some issues last year, and let's go back to 2023. The linebacker play and the safety play was rough at different points during the year. There were some guys that were nicked up, and that contributed to that. But we were giving up over 200 yards on the ground per game through our first four. A lot of missed tackles, a lot of bad fits. And then things started to get a little bit more steady. And outside of Florida State and Louisville, we had some outstanding performances against Pitt, Syracuse, 0 rushing yards, BC, UVA. As a former linebacker, and now you work with the safeties, what do you think the reason was for those defensive struggles, and how did it change? What changed?
Well, I'd say first thing, second year in the structure of our defense. Guys are still getting comfortable early in the season with everything. Also had some young guys earning starting spots that never played positions before. You talk about Kelly Lawson. He played receiver when he first got here, so he was still learning to see the box, to see the run fits. For me, in my room, in our room, in the safeties room, Jalen Jones, 2-year receiver, first 2 years here, starting at safety for the first time ever, at a big stage. So some of those run fits, it's nice when you have 4-year seniors that have played and fitted up for 40, 50 games. I mean, that's what you get when you got Shamari Connor, Nasir Peoples, who had all those starts, from the year prior. They can kind of correct guys if they misfit up front, especially at the second level, third level as a safety. So we just had some misfits. Guys, some young guys starting at, getting some action at defensive end. It just happens. And, you just each week, again, you try to hone in on it. But I'll say when it started to click, when we started, fitting that up better, the offense started rolling too. It was kind of we emphasized it in practice. Coach Marv, Coach Quinn, Pilo, and I with our safeties. I mean, we took indie period away to do run fits every day. Almost, I mean, it was like we slowed it down. We were having walk-through run fits in practice, and so we had to emphasize that. Also, the offense started rolling. They're moving chains. They're scoring points. We're not on the field as much, getting tired. So there's a correlation there.
That's complimentary football, right? That's what Price says all the time.
Yep.
Nice. And the other thing I thought too was that there were some health issues, and I know coaches never want to use the health excuse. It's always next man up. But Nazir was nicked up and was barely on the field for the first 5 games. Keonta had to leave some games. He had some issues, and Stroman too. So you're talking about the safeties who are so involved in our run fits that it really created an issue. And you're having to lean on guys like Mose Phillips and Jalen Jones who don't have that experience. That had to be a real challenge.
It is challenging, and the mindset, you're right, it's there, hey, next man up mentality. But, in all reality, when it's a guy that doesn't have much experience or a young guy that's still getting the feel for the fits, I mean, that's what's going to happen sometimes. As much as they're going to work their tails off for it, but in the heat of battle, things happen, and experience definitely helps when, you got a guy that when you see something or a misfit up front, where the ball's going to hit and where you got to actually correct it, right. in an older guy. So, yeah, it was a challenge. We had to go through it, but I mean, those guys just kept getting better each week. And again, Mose Phillips is starting in that bowl game and he balled out, so, he just kept getting better. And he had a great spring, probably the most improved in our room on the defense.
I know when he came in, a lot of the older players kind of earmarked him as a guy who was going to be a contributor down the line. So I'm happy to hear about that great spring and his improvement. Yeah. I want to talk about Kelly Lawson briefly. His name came up earlier, and with him, he really burst on the scene in 2022, especially towards the end of the year, was putting up some decent numbers, and his NFL measurables and athleticism landed him on Bruce Feldman's freaks list going into 2023. And the fan base was super excited about his prospects. But you look at his numbers last year, was making a ton of tackles. I thought flying around in those first 4 or 5 games and playing on instinct and raw talent, maybe not always in the right place, but the effort and ability was there. Then after the Marshall game, we didn't see the 10-plus tackle performances, and his contributions, at least on the stat sheet, seemed to decline as the season went on. Chris Coleman has talked about his PFF grades on TSL, that kind of thing. Perhaps there was a schematic change, but is there, or something else we weren't aware of? From a fan's perspective, we're all wondering if he'll regain that trajectory that we saw for him from 2022 into 2023. Could you shed some light on the curious case of Kelly Lawson?
Well, yeah, I mean, rightfully so. He deserves to be on that freak list because the dude is a stud. I mean, he's as long as the room. He can run. He flashes. Another thing I'll say about Kelly, he's one of the hardest workers in our program. The dude comes to work every day. He sets the tone. He brings a lot of juice, and he's pushing everyone to work as hard as him. So I don't get into the stats. I mean, PFF grades, I know they're important. I didn't know he was, not as, racking them up toward the end of the season, I guess. But again, it's all 11 of us. But when Kelly's on the field, just know he's going to fly around and get to the football. We don't want robots. He may not fit the right spot or be where he needs to be, but I know he's going to get to that football. And so, when you got guys that just play hard, they care about their teammates, they play for each other, you can win with that. It's our job to obviously make sure that we're sound, structurally as a defense. But, you're going to win with Kelly when he's on the football field.
Nice. And something my co-host Sam was wondering is how you balance that teaching of scheme with guys and their natural instinct, because Bud Foster used to always say head tying up the feet, like, because you need to play with that natural linebacker instinct, but you also need to teach these guys to play right. That has to be a tough balance.
We're always pouring into these kids, and we really, consider ourselves teachers here. Like, yes, you're a coach, and that's the title, but you got to teach ball. You got to teach them everything from X's and O's to how to be prepared for meetings. I mean, a lot of that mentorship goes into everything off the field. When you teach them how to study film, it's their responsibility to know the playbook.
Right.
We're going to teach it to them, but I mean, they got to study just like any subject. You got to put the time in mentally when you're off the field to know what you're doing. Now, once you do know what you're doing, now I can start teaching you, hey, this is what the offense is trying to do. Mm-hmm. And then things start to click. That when they know what they're doing and they can actually now progress their game to, hey, what's the offense trying to do in this situation? You can start playing what's called anticipated football, and you can play faster. Definitely don't want to tie up their feet by playing slow. For us, as complex as defenses can be, we want to try to. Oh, sorry, we got an OB in the house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I could have shut that door. I apologize.
It's okay.
We're getting hype in there for him. As complex as defenses can be, we're always talking, and Coach Marv is great about this, is how can we simplify it so the boys can play fast? It don't matter if we got 4 calls in that week. If they know exactly what they're doing, they can play fast, and that's what we want to try to get to. So it's our jobs to make it as simple as it can be. But we want those boys to play fast, and we don't want them to be robots. Yes, they need to know what to do, but they're up here and they're at this level for a reason. They're talented and they are good football players. So we got to let them go play.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about one more linebacker before I kind of close things out here. But Sam Brumfield comes in from Middle Tennessee State, and we had a revolving door of Mikes last year, depending on the game, depending on who was healthy. I think Keller started the year, then Tisdale played a lot. McDonald got in there. But Brumfield comes in. He started 10 games for Middle Tennessee State, went up against some SEC teams during those games, and he ascended from JUCO just the year before. So kind of a rising star for him really quickly here. Do you think, what do you think his prospects are for this season? Are you feeling good about his taking to this team and being that starting Mike potentially?
Yeah. One thing I'll say about Sam and the first impression you get is he's a mature kid. I mean, his presence, his demeanor, you can tell it. He's an older guy. He's experienced. He's hungry too. He got that chip on his shoulder. He definitely knows where he's come from, and he's a straight baller. First thing, when he got here, we're going right into winter workouts. which are early morning agilities. We're running the boys, they're competing. But he's explosive. That dude he can go. At the measurables, like the length and stuff, it may not be, what you want in like a 6'1", 6'2", or 6'3" inside linebacker or whatever, but that doesn't matter. Sam, it's up here. It's his heart, the way he works, and he's come and earned the respect of everybody in this program, and he works at it every day. I mean, extra meetings, always in studying film, always asking questions. He really impressed this spring ball, taking command of the defense when he was in. That's what we were needing in that Mike position. Last year, we had some rotational guys, but Tisdale did a great job. Again, an experienced guy, but he played well, a lot when Dax was here playing Mike. And so for him, he had to take more on that ownership of commanding a defense, also as learning that position.
And I think that's one of the reasons it improved too, is Tisdale became more comfortable as a Mike, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that really contributed to us playing better in the linebacking core towards the end of the year.
Yeah, no question. Each day we went out there, he was getting better and better, more comfortable commanding the defense and leading. It definitely showed toward the end of the season.
So, and you said the thing about his measurables, I remember Rayshard Ashby, right? He's built like a keg, but he was a heck of a middle linebacker. Middle linebacker is so much about just effort, being in the right spot, and your mind, and if he has that, Sam, he's built up. There was a couple pictures of him during spring, he's pretty jacked. Yeah, exactly.
That dude is strong. But going back to Rook and going back to Dax, I appreciate those guys in mad respect, because yes, they weren't the fastest, they weren't the tallest, but that doesn't matter, man. It's all about your mindset, your mentality, being able to play fast, being able to be instinctive at the Mike position, and get to that ball, man. You got to eat. And so those two guys, they were studs.
Yeah. So your position technically doesn't exist anymore, right? You played the whip, and we call it kind of the star now. And we picked up Caleb Spencer in the portal just recently, and Pry says he's going to start at the star position. And to a novice like myself, they do seem very similar. But could you tell us maybe the differences? Because this position, this hybrid linebacker safety position, some teams call it the Buck or the Bandit or whatever. There's all kinds of different names depending on your defense. And are there differences to the whip and the star from your days to now?
Honestly, no. We call it the star because, really, Keontae, he was a safety here for a few years,
Yep.
And so he's a big athletic kid that can run. He's as fast as my safeties, but he's big and as physical as a linebacker, right? So you're getting a guy that's versatile in playing in space, but also being able to reduce into the box and play with the big boys. So the whip position and the star, they're the same exact position. It depends on what you're going to ask him to do. Keontae can cover receivers. He can run, right? But he can blitz. He can tackle. The dude's a stud. So he's a star. He's a star, So when we were recruiting that position, these big safeties in high school, they don't want to hear linebacker. I didn't want to hear linebacker when I was a safety in high school. They'd rather hear star, But in all honesty, you are the star of the D. You got to be able to do it all. And so, Keontae is one of those guys. Caleb Spencer, we didn't promise him to start anywhere, but he is starting as learning that position first.
That's what I meant, starting out at that position.
Yeah. But no, great talent. If you watch his high school film, everyone got to go see his high school film. The dude is just knocking people back and running all over the field. Goes to Miami as a DB and just kept getting bigger, faster, stronger. And so I think that'll be a great position for him to showcase his abilities. And what we're going to ask him to do is flying around, making tackles, covering receivers. You got to start, man. So that's the start.
Okay, one last simple question for you before we get out of here. Do you have confidence we'll see the linebacker and safety combo and that run defense continue to improve in 2024?
No question about it. Spring ball was a taste of it. Guys are getting more comfortable. We got young guys who are developing at a high rate, which we're excited about. So everything's coming together. When we hit camp, these boys are working now. I can look outside on this field. There's guys working on their own, So They're getting more comfortable. It's our third year, in the system. Everybody's more comfortable. And I think, now that they know what they're doing and they have a better understanding of what we're asking them to do on the defense, now you can start, again, teaching them more about, hey, what the offense is trying to do, situational football, play anticipated football. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there with these boys and get to work, man. We're going to hit the ground running, and this run defense is going to be serious this year.
I look at the coaching staff, and you've got yourself, Xavier, Marv, Prize, a linebacker guy. There's a vested interest in making that linebacker position one of our best, right? I mean, that seems, and we started that by bringing in a guy like Gabe Williams and some of, Woodson and these other guys that are coming in, Asen Stevens. So
Yeah.
it's real exciting. And we always go back to the days of Xavier and Vince Hall and to get back to that combination of,
can't forget Jermaine Edmonds.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And just want to see that position and that run stuffing ability be back to where we used to be. And dude, I cannot be more excited about the trajectory of our program in general. And that's a credit to you and the other analysts and the other coaches we have on staff. So I appreciate all that you do for Virginia Tech. And this was great, man. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. I could talk Hokie ball all day.
Yeah, you were very generous with your time. Make sure you guys are subscribed on YouTube to the Sons of Saturday channel, on our, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. Rate, review, subscribe. And one more time, Coach, thanks for being here with us. Till next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.